My skin is a lot thicker than it used to be, so don't be afraid to be critical. I might cry on the inside, but on the outside I'll try to be tough. So are there any questions or concerns or comments?
King.
Hi, my name is King Anderson. I'm a visual artist. I've been here on Hornby for a while. And basically I've spent my life not being interested in politics. However, very recently I've come up with two interesting questions about BC Hydro. Are you familiar with the BC Public Interest Advocacy Centre in Vancouver? It's a group of lawyers that advocate for poverty groups, for seniors, and they take on a lot of issues, including hydro rate increases, this sort of thing. Jim Quayle is the executive director there. On the BC PIAC website, he has a blog called Dumb Meters. And the gist of his comments are that BC Hydro is spending millions and millions and millions, maybe even billions of dollars installing these meters all over the province, when perhaps the money could be better spent other ways to save money and conserve energy and that sort of thing. So that's the first part, my first comment on hydro, which I'm hoping you'll comment on BC Hydro. The second one is that today in the email news, the Auditor General has come up with saying that BC Hydro is taking millions and millions and millions of dollars and sort of forwarding it into the future somehow. They're spending way more money than what they have coming in, so technically they're in debt, but they take this money that they owe and they're putting it into the future, and then they're turning around and saying, aren't we a great group, we're making a profit. So there's some creative financing going on that I don't understand. So I guess what I'm kind of wondering is, who are these guys that are running this outfit? Are they the 65-year-old fat guys you're talking about with no brains? Okay, I don't want to slag anybody here, but I am curious as to the logic that seems to be in that corporation and why they would treat their finances that way.
Yeah. I'm not an expert, and I saw the Auditor General come up with a report, and I'm glad we have an Auditor General for that very reason, whether it is in regards to BC Hydro or whether it is in regards to an issue that's one I have to deal with, the Agricultural Land Commission. You know, and that's part of the elements. I'm not an accountant, and I haven't seen the details, and even if I did, with a very short stroke of looking at it, I may not be wise enough to tell you the accountancy element of it there. The reality is, though, the Auditor General flags an issue, and government responds to it, as does BC Hydro. And if there is a disagreement of opinion, like one of the things we have is GAP in general accounting principles, which we as a government subscribe to. And accountancy, which I'm not an expert in by any means, is not always as black and white as I think it should be. But the good thing is, it's been flagged. It's been flagged both politically and economically, and now it has to be accounted for. The minister, Rich Coleman, stood up in the House and answered a question on it yesterday. But chances are he needs to be briefed on it as well. So it's not an issue that's a one-dayer. This is something that will be addressed, I think, over time. The smart meters, there is concern out in the public. There's no doubt about it. I'm still a little confused as to why there's concern about BC Hydro doing it when places like Village of Cumberland are doing it with their water meters and having the electronic reader and doing the same thing. Gas meters across the province are doing the same way. I think there's something like 18 municipalities are doing similar technology, and it was never flagged there. The reality is, I would say in British Columbia, we're very fortunate to have BC Hydro. And the lower rates that come with it. We have, I think, arguably the fourth lowest rate of hydro in North America, which leads us to one of the lowest rates in the developed world. But the reality is, power is going to go up in price in a general commodity sense. The population grows.
Yeah, but is it going to go up because they're not making a profit and they're spending way more than they're taking in? I mean, the financial wisdom just doesn't seem to be there.
Well, one of the arguments, and I know the opposition will give a different number than this, but Hydro will say that right now there's about $100 million in hydro theft a year. We can discover hydro theft right now because we can drive around, and it happens in the city of Courtenay with a thermal imaging camera, and when someone is having a marijuana grow show and using an obscene amount of power, that can be determined. a smart meter, and part of the money is for the meters on our house. Remember, the meters on our house, and I'm not an engineer, but they haven't changed in my whole lifetime. I'm 41 years old. There are very few pieces of technology in a home that haven't changed in 41 years, and the meter we have in our house is one of them. The other part of the dollars is for the smart grid. And there's some of the things I do like about it. The idea to be able to actually have less of a carbon footprint by actually selling down the road, the smart meter will allow people to have solar panels on their homes in certain parts of the country and the province. Myself in Comox Valley in the summertime could, in theory, though I think it's rather expensive now, put solar panels on my roof of my house and sell back into the grid during the summer to have an energy credit for the winter time, which would save me money and would help us not buy power from other jurisdictions. Because right now our dam system is basically a big old battery, right? We fill it up in the wet season and we sell it out when we need to in the other parts. And we're so fortunate in Comox Valley, British Columbia, because we actually are at the end of the power day. And so we have that ability to actually buy cheap power when it's available on the market. And that's one of the reasons we have such low rates. Could BC Hydro have done a better job? Oh, for sure, selling the smart meter concept. But I'd also argue we could have done a better job selling the HST as government too. They haven't been always so successful in communication. The concerns that are raised, I don't know. I know I was talking to some of the members of HERA earlier, and they were concerned about people having individuals coming onto our property to put on the meters. But they come onto our property now as well to check our meter readings as well every couple of months. So there is an aspect there. The other thing is, I think there is a conservation needs knowledge. And it's so hard to get knowledge from your current meter that you have for hydro in your house. And so the ability through the internet, I think it'll be by 2013, that you can go online and see your power usage on a daily basis is huge. And so the example I used is you shut down power in your house, or you have your house what you think is black, and you can see your meter still running, and it's running substantially. What's causing that? Well, you can figure that out with a smart meter. You can find out whether it's that 1955 fridge in the basement. Maybe it's an expensive TV, or maybe you have a space heater hooked up in a room that you don't think about, and it's just sucking power that way. Or what we call, arguably in the world of politics, the vampire power, when we have all these plug-ins all over our house for a cell phone or a TV that's off, and all these little red lights that are sucking power on a regular basis. And what's that costing us? But conservation is, in my opinion anyway, something that's so essential. And I think the smart meter is a tool that'll get us there. Is it the best tool? I don't know, but maybe there's other ways to get there.
Thanks for that, Don. I know that smart meters we could discuss more of, and I should, before carrying on to the next question, note that Richard is here instead and is filming, and just so people know that, and are okay with that, hopefully.
I would have my hair bit.
Your hair is lovely, Don.
Yeah, well, before I went in the cabinet, I used gel. Now that I'm in the cabinet, I don't need to. It just stays up naturally.
Richard and Janet and, I'm sorry, Chris. Richard.
I was hoping that we'd exhaust one topic at a time. I'll go back to the smart meters. If I currently run my generator with the power off, and my analog meter will run backwards right now when I run that generator. And if it runs backwards and I'm feeding my neighbors, I actually have to shut off that source, or they'll use up take the power I'm generating.
Right. Okay, I guess so. I'm not a physicist, but I'll take your word for it. Sounds good.
So this information that caused this $910 million to be spent on this program and to give it a go-ahead is more than 2 years old, and so is the research. My understanding is when John Blatherwick was explained that he underwrote it, saying at the time there was only 2 seconds of electromagnetic generation during the day. He wasn't explained sufficiently that these were microbursts and happened 24/7, and that in many areas there was going to be a master transmitter, one many times more powerful, that collected the local results and rebroadcast them, and you wouldn't have any idea whether you had one of these or not. The Smart Meter program is a global initiative It's very little to do with BC Hydro, and it is a mechanism simply for reselling power. Now, if you look around this room, BC Hydro was on about buying CFL bulbs. They even gave you samples of them years ago. Now we have a monstrous problem in what to do with burned out and broken ones. They're an environmental hazard. People argue, well, you got to shut some of the lights out to save power. Well, this isn't true in an electrically heated room, because this 100 watts and that 100 watts is all producing heat for this room, and those wall heaters just shut down sooner. So there's a false saving here.
Except if you're heating your house with electricity from your 100-watt bulbs, you are going to break yourself financially.
Well, if you already have electric heat, I guess that's the point I'm making. If the space heater is where your pump is and where your electric water heater is, and you're heating a basement, then you're not losing, even in the summer, you're not losing heat. It's false economy. And the next thing that occurred to me was that the Minister of Agriculture needs at some point to admit that the biggest gross and cash income in this province is from marijuana growth.
I told the Minister, Solicitor General that yesterday. I did, but with a jokingly face, by the way.
And it's not even just here, it's also in California and likely Oregon and other jurisdictions.
Yeah.
So this witch hunt to find who has grow-ups, most of these sophisticated operations have their own generators and they don't want a leaking outside source to tattle on them. Anyway, these smart meters are eminently hackable. They're as hackable as anything else that's online. And to go back to the 80s, the satellite industry proved that when they introduced gold chips, which is the new phenomenon in bank cards now. They introduced those in the early 90s and they were hacked within months. So none of this technology is proven, and you'll notice that one of the schools in Quesnel actually banned the Wi-Fi. They shut the Wi-Fi down. They've gone back to hardwiring because it's elementary students and they don't feel the exposure is a requirement.
Case.
My name is Kees. I'd like to visit the smart meter again. I heard you say that you think the smart meter is a good idea.
Yep.
Because you think then in 2013 you can sell potential power.
No, I didn't say that. I said you can monitor your power usage in 2013. They can monitor your power use by going online. You can look at your bill as it goes up, I think daily or maybe hourly. But the other thing you can do is you have potential to sell into the grid. You don't do that now.
So that's what you think was a good feature.
Yeah.
Another good feature I thought was that you can sit on your computer to see if the baseboard heater in the basement is on, right?
Yeah.
You did not mention at all about the health effects, these cell phone towers or these smart meters on every house talking to each other. You did make no mention of that. Later on you mentioned that the health budget is way over.
No, it's not way over, it's just what it is.
Well, what it is, yeah, okay, what it is. It's like, aren't you not aware of the potential health risk a smart meter on every house in BC can cause the people of BC? Are you not aware of that?
I've seen the literature that was put out by as in Vancouver recently, there was people giving out literature, and to be honest, to convince me that they're right, they need to have better validators for their science. I don't know where the University of Malmo is, but
That'd be in Sweden.
I know that, but I don't even know if it's a real school. The reality is there are certain validators for good science when it comes to medical research, and they didn't have ones that I as a layman recognized. When you have to pull your experts, and I'm not saying the experts are wrong, I'm just saying that to convince me as just Don McRae, not as an elected official, I want things like respected journals of medicine that we know in North America. And there are people with PhDs who will say a whole bunch of things. I'm not saying they're wrong. Their research leads them in a certain direction.
But how come you believe the outcome? You have it the other way around. Like your reports don't do it for me. And it should be that you should show that it's safe, opposed to me showing that it's not safe. And you can't show me that it's safe. Nobody can show it's safe. And there's so many reports that this is a non-safe thing. And so I would like to ask just the people here, just to give myself an idea, of a show of hands who would oppose having a smart meter cell phone tower on their house, on Hornby or wherever. I'd like to see, so you know kind of what place. We don't want that.
But at the same time, we do know that the number of people in British Columbia who say, when we talked about the potential 50% rate increase of hydro that was coming down the pipe, what percentage of BC citizens would be supportive of paying 50% more for hydro if they didn't have to? The answer is, I would say everybody would put up their hand. And I think one of the jobs of government is to find that balance using new technology. And I agree, the precautionary principle gives reasons never to do anything. And I understand people, I have a cell phone in my pocket as I'm talking to you. Does it come with a health risk? You know what, I don't know if it's
Turn it off right now, then it's not a health risk.
But the other thing is, I do know in British Columbia, if we were a nation, we would have the longest lived men and the second longest lived women in the world. We are a very well subscribed and healthy society. Is it perfect? By all means, we can criticize little pieces of it. But on this one, you know, and that's one of the joys of being in government. We differ in opinion. And sometimes when you take a leadership position, you tick people off and then you vote against me, which I understand. But it's so hard to leave because it's so easy to sit there and study and then get nothing done. And that's the challenge. And then so as soon as you make a move that you think has good consequences, you open yourself to criticism. And that's fair. We live in a democratic society and I'm glad we do.
The consequences of the good don't weigh to the potential consequences of the bad in this case.
Oh, well,
you open a can of worms which is way bigger than you could imagine.
Next case.
And there's also people who think you shouldn't immunize your children, right? And they're entitled to that opinion, and I totally disagree with them. There are also people who think that raw milk should be allowed, and pasteurization has saved millions and millions of people. People are allowed to have their opinion.
That's right. So I urge the people here to check out smart meters, because it's...
But also, like everything, arguments are balanced. Make sure you know the bias of both sides when you're looking into it.
We've got Stephanie, Jan, and Christine. Stephanie.